So first of all, welcome everyone to this certificate training program on enhancing inclusive
بحضراتكم
strategies.
الاستراتيجيات للعمل على إدماج المحليين في الحد من المخاطر للأشخاص ذوي الاحتياجات الخاصة. نرحب بكم في هذا التدريب. التدريب سوف يكون باللغة الإنجليزية والأسبانية، وسوف نقدم لكم الترجمة باللغة العربية والبرتغيز والروسية، اللغة الصينية. ونحن سوف يكون عندنا
And the training is responding to the midterm review of the Sendai framework, and also in connection with the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction 2023, where the focus will be on addressing inequalities in disaster risk reduction. So this training really provides a good opportunity for us to discuss this issue around inequalities embedded in disaster risk reduction, and also let us take the moment to rethink how we have been doing around disaster risk reduction strategies, particularly in terms of the inclusion of persons with disability. We are also very thankful of the support from the government of Finland, as well as the government of the Republic of Korea, for making this inclusive training possible. It's also important to remind you that this training is a certificate training program, and participants will be given the certificate of completion if they meet 3 requirements. Firstly, the participant will have to attend these live sessions online. And secondly, you have to complete an end of the training quiz. And this is a 10 questions in true and false questions. And you must score above 80% in order to be successful. And lastly, number 3, you need to complete a course evaluation survey after the end of this training. We'll be providing the link to access this quiz and survey at the end of the training, so please stay tuned with us. Now, a few of the important information for all of you. We currently have over 600 participants joining the sessions, and all of your video and microphone will be disabled throughout the training. But we have the chat room open for your interactions, and we'll be providing important links and information in the chat throughout the session. So please respect each other and refrain from posting any disturbing messages or self-promotional materials in the chat box. Throughout these sessions, we also welcome questions for all speakers from the participants, and please kindly use the Q&A options, the box here at the bottom of the Zoom screen, to drop your questions for any speakers that you may have. And lastly, the session will be recorded, and the recording will be shared on the training webpage, of which the link will be provided to you also in the chat box. So without further ado, let's move onward into the welcoming sections of today's training. We are honored to have 3 important guests with us today for the welcoming remarks. Firstly, Ms. Mami Mizutori, Special Representative of the United Nations Secretary General for Disaster Risk Reduction and Head of UNDRR. Unfortunately, Mami is not able to attend live due to her prior engagement and travel, but she has sent us the video recording. So please warmly welcome her message here.
Dear distinguished colleagues and participants, a very warm welcome to all of you. Disasters impact everyone, but have a disproportionate impact on persons with disabilities, not because of individual impairments, but society's barriers. there are approximately 1.3 billion people who experience significant disabilities worldwide, and many of them face social and logistical isolation. This impedes their access to disaster risk information and services which could save their lives in the event of a disaster. The Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction seeks to remove these barriers. It champions an inclusive and participatory approach to decision-making where persons with disabilities are seen not as victims in need of assistance, but as equal stakeholders in disaster risk reduction plans and programs that impact their lives. As 2023 marks the midpoint in the implementation of the Sendai Framework, the UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction conducted the second Global Disability and Disaster Survey to understand what progress has been made and what barriers remains. The survey reveals several striking figures. First, 84% of persons with disabilities reported not being prepared in case of a disaster. This is 12% higher than the result found in the global survey conducted 10 years ago in 2013. Second, 86% of persons with disabilities felt excluded from participating in disaster risk decision-making at the community level. And third, only 11% of persons with disabilities reported being aware of their country's national level disaster risk reduction plan, and only 14% were aware of their local level plan. These findings show the need to urgently empower persons with disabilities to meaningfully contribute to disaster risk reduction planning efforts. That is why we are glad to be hosting this training and why it is important that planners use tools such as the Annex for the inclusion of persons with disabilities as part of the Disaster Resilience Scorecard for cities. This practical tool, which we launched a few months ago, enables local governments to design, formulate, and implement policies that are inclusive of persons with disabilities so that no one is left behind. Through today's training, you will be hearing from many experts and you will learn about the experiences of persons with disabilities and of local government leaders. And most importantly, you will gain the how-to of removing existing barriers to address the needs of persons with disabilities. On that note, I would like to thank the government of Finland and the Republic of Korea for making this training possible. I would also like to thank all partners and experts who contributed to the development of the Scorecard Annex. Together, let's celebrate the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction by reducing the inequalities that persist in disaster risk reduction practices. We must transform our words into action, and we must do so immediately. Thank you very much, and I wish you great success.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome from Mami Mizutori. Next in line, we also have the message from Ms. Elham, Youssefian, Senior Advisor of Disaster Risk Reduction and Climate Action at International Disability Alliance. She's here with us in person, and the floor is yours, Ms. Elham.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. I'm speaking from Brussels. I just see in the chat people are joining from different parts of the world. So hello to all of you. And congratulations to colleagues in UNDRR for launching such an important tool, which in my opinion is a significant firm step towards realizing and making inclusion and disability inclusion a reality in disaster risk reduction. So I am very happy to be part of this important effort and have a few minutes with all of you. I'm sure that the rest of the training is very exciting, full of great instructions, golden points, and all important things that you need to consider in the work of disability inclusion. and to make sure that this is properly measured by applying the scorecard. But I want to offer 3 golden rules that I think whenever you are working, wherever you are working, in whatever part, whether it's a program, it's policy making, it's monitoring, it's at the field level, field responders, or whatever position that you have that can help you in disaster risk reduction, inclusive of persons with disabilities. First thing is that let's make sure to always remember that our ultimate goal is genuine equality. So whenever you are thinking about what is the right policy, what is the right program, what is the right answer to a certain question, just remember that the ultimate goal is genuine equality without disability. So it is important, that would help you to answer to many questions that you face. The second golden rule I want to offer is do not make assumptions, because people with disabilities are not a homogeneous group. They are different, not only because of the type of impairment, but also because like every other person, they are from different age, gender, sexual orientation, race, nationality, refugee status, religion, belief, and all of that. All the different layers of each person's identity that in the interaction with the impairment would make the situation different. So just a quick example is that, for example, when you look at a blind person, based on the age, they may require different support to be able to access a certain event or meeting. For those who are younger and more familiar with technology, they can use the assistive technology in a modern, more progressive way. But those who are older persons who are blind or who have acquired the impairment later in life may need more traditional forms of communication. So this is my second rule to you. Do not make assumptions. Even if you know that, for example, one person who used wheelchair required this, that doesn't mean that all of them require the same thing. Just ask and consider the intersecting different layers of everyone's identity. And my final golden rule is that disability inclusion should not be an afterthought. This is something that should be remembered, should be thought about, should be planned well in advance. When you are submitting the budget, when you are making work plans, disability inclusion should be considered at that point. Otherwise, usually it's gonna be late to take measures for disability inclusion. So I thank again for this opportunity and leave you with these 3 golden rules that I hope would help you throughout your journey towards disability inclusion. And congratulations to every one of you who work on making world with less risk and more manageable disasters. Thank you very much, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Elham. These are very spot on 3 golden points that you have pointed out, and we really hope that the training sessions today really help the participants to move closer to all of those 3 spotlight points that you have given. So last in line, we would like to welcome Ms. Titta Maja-Luoto. She is the Director General for the Development Policies and Ministry for Foreign Affairs of Finland. She's here with us, so the floor is yours, Ms. Titta.
Well, thank you very much, Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is impressive to see how you come from different parts of the world. So warm welcome also, on behalf of Finland to this important event. Ensuring that persons with disabilities can actually fully exercise their rights, it is precondition for achieving the sustainable development goals. And for this reason, rights of persons with disabilities are a priority in Finland's foreign and security policy, also in development policy and humanitarian assistance. We do firmly believe that active participation of persons with disabilities themselves is a cornerstone of disability inclusive development and humanitarian action. Persons with disabilities, in particular women with disabilities, must be included in all issues affecting them. It goes without saying that this also applies to disaster risk management.
Ms. Titta, your microphone turned mute.
Oh, sorry. I think I pushed it accidentally. So accessibility of information is the basis for inclusive support and services. And physical inaccessibility of evacuation processes or shelters, or lack of understanding the specific needs of persons with disabilities are just some examples of the barriers that persons with disabilities can face in crisis situations. And I'm sure that you there online know these situations much better than I do. It needs to be ensured that all risk information, such as early warning, alert systems, and crisis communications, are inclusive and provided in formats that are accessible for all persons with disabilities in all their diversity. This is truly a life-saving matter and cannot be overlooked. There is clearly an urgent need to accelerate action to reduce disaster and climate-related risks and their disproportionate impact on persons with disabilities. One way of achieving this goal would be advancing disability inclusion in all relevant trainings of all stakeholders working on disaster risk reduction. In this context, the training program taking place today, enhancing inclusive local disaster risk reduction synergies using disability inclusion scorecard and annex, could not be more timely and relevant. We are really happy and proud to participate and support this work. This work reflects well the call of UN Secretary General Guterres in connection to the adoption of the UN Disability Inclusion Strategy in 2019. When we remove policies or biases or obstacles to opportunity for persons with disabilities, the whole world benefits. With strengthened cooperation between all stakeholders, including organizations of persons with disabilities, we can take this important work forward and ensure that no one is left behind. I commend the good work UNDRR is doing in this matter and want to emphasize that you have our full support in doing this. And I want to congratulate the organizers of this training. This is something that will not go unnoticed. I see how many participants are there online, and this alone shows how much this kind of a training is needed. So I wish you the best of trainings. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Titta. It's actually with the support from the government of Finland that made this possible. So we really hope that the training really continues to enhance this inclusion of persons with disability in many fronts. So with that said, we're going to be moving on to the next section of the training. We'll first have the first segment of the presentation to orientate you around the concept of disability inclusion and disaster risk reduction, and also introducing to you this disaster resilience scorecard for cities, the annex for the inclusion of persons with disabilities. Before later on in the sessions, we'll be hearing some practical examples from the cities that have already been applying this tool and be able to identify key actions to help them enhance the integration and engagement of persons with disability in disaster risk reduction activities in the cities. So without further ado, I would like to pass the floor to Mr. Carlos Kaiser Manchula. Carlos is an executive director of ONG Inclusiva. He was also a founding member and former representative of Inclusive Disaster Risk Management and Disability Network of Latin America and the Caribbean, former global focal point for disaster risk reduction and disability. He was also the member of the advisory committee for the Inclusive Climate Action and Research Program on Disability, and many more. Carlos was actually the key driver in the development of this disaster resilience scorecard for cities Annex for the inclusion of persons with disabilities. So we would welcome him here to also share with us on the inspiration, help us to understand more why we need to include persons with disability in disaster risk reduction. And that said, the floor is yours. Please give him the warm welcome.
It's a great honor to me to be speaking here with all of you. It's been a great journey developing this tool. I remember that in 2019, I had this great conversation with Mr. Raul Salazar. Raul was the director of the UNDRR for the America and Caribbean region at the time. And we were discussing how can we achieve more inclusion towards people with disabilities and disaster risk reduction. So I said to him, Raul, we need to have a scorecard of persons with disabilities and disaster risk reduction and making cities resilient cities. So he said, okay, let's do it. And next year, well, after this, it happened that they hired me as a consultant to create this tool. I create a scorecard. Then we have a group of very important people from different parts of the world, especially from the network in Latin America and the Caribbean region, that they work as experts in order to improve the tool. And also then we have the Institute of UNDRR that they have in Korea working on this scorecard. So for me, this is a dream come true. Imagine that this humble man trying to craft a tool for disability. Now I have my dream come true, and it's spreading all over the world. I have also the great honor to participate in the very first city that start using the scorecard, that is Pudahuel in Chile, my country, Chile. That's a great honor to me too. Also telling you that we have now funding from JICA and the government of Chile. And next year we are going to have a training course for 50 countries in America and the Caribbean that are going to work with the disability scorecard. So that's something that makes me happy. But let's start talking about what we are talking to. When we are talking about disaster risk reduction and people with disabilities, first, we are declaring that we agreed on a system that said that all people are equal in rights. We have the same rights. People with disabilities have the same rights. We have a convention, we have many different instruments to say that people with disability have the same dignity and have to have the same opportunities that the rest of the world perceive. We know that there are real gaps. I'm talking about what is our ideals and the things that we really want to, but not the things that we're experiencing now, because we are experiencing a lot of exclusion. Let's talk about, for instance, what happened with COVID-19, when they try not to get us into hospitals and they say that if you have a disability, you are not priority. And they said it right in front of our faces. I had conversation with many physicians that they say, no, you are not ethical because you want people with disabilities to be treated equally to the rest of the population. Imagine, they call it that ethics. Wow, that's a great discussion. So when we are talking about people with disabilities and we are talking about the need for justice, we said that we need to say that the lives of people with disabilities matters. That's the first thing. We really matters. So we cannot say that it's not important. Second, we have to say, well, if we agreed on what should be done, now let's discuss how those things should be done. Practical part of it. Because we can have a lot of long discussions saying things about that we have rights, saying things that we need to enforce those rights, but the question is how? How can we strengthen this? First thing first, I believe that we need to work with local governments. Not only with the national governments. Of course we need the national governments. Of course we need them. But the thing is that when you face a disaster and you face an emergency, you're going to face it in the place you live. And the first authority that is going to be there is going to be the local government. The local government is the one that knows what happened in their land. They know the geography of the land. They know the weather. They know the culture. They know the neighbors. They know everyone there. And they are the one that has to manage the place. So we need them. We need to work with them closely. So first thing first, meaningful participation of people with disabilities. Nothing about us without us. We need people with disabilities in the local sector to work with the local government. We need to constitute working groups with them. That's part of the scorecard that we are discussing now. We need to provide them data. We need to provide them knowledge. We need to provide them support. That's what we need to do. And that's the thing that people with disabilities must do by themselves. We need to be there. We are absent. We cannot complain. We need to be present. We need to be active. We need to be supportive. So apart from this, we need also to collect data, because if you don't have data, you don't have knowledge. If you don't have knowledge, you cannot do things properly. So that's other key part of the scorecard, disability scorecard, that we need to have knowledge, statistical knowledge. We need to know where people are located. We need what they need. We need to know what they can do also by themselves. We need to train them. We need to upgrade what we have. We need to upgrade reality. We cannot just go with things the way they are. So what I want to say also is that we need to make the local government work as one, because the local government should have different offices. In many countries, you have that big cities and small towns. So local government can be big, can be medium-sized, or can be very, very, very small. But they are going to have people working with them inside of the organization. So you need that if they have an office for disabilities issues, they have to work with the disaster risk office altogether. They have to cooperate. This way we have inclusion. So what we need to establish is that we are not only use indicators in order to know if we have any advance. We need to know that people with disabilities should and must be very active. We cannot wait for someone else to do things on behalf of us. I always say what we have this incredible motto as group, nothing about us without us. So what I really want to say is that if we work with this local, if we really work with the local government, we should start asking things in different part of the government, regional level. We need to also involve the national level. We are going to have it all because we need to have this all things. If not, we are not going to face the emergencies properly. I'm going to finish soon because I believe the time runs out, but I want to say that one of the specific things that we have to have in mind is that people with disabilities are here. we should show ourselves, because sometimes society make us invisible, and we should make the difference, saying, hey, we're here. We are going to have this instrument and many others, because we need instruments created by people with disabilities, with the help of people with disabilities, and also with the help of people that are not people with disabilities themselves, but they are very committed for our case. That's the case of many people working on UNDRR. They are our allies. I know they are, because they are working hard on many issues related to people with disabilities. So let's spread the use of this scorecard. Let's express the use of any tool that can develop the disaster risk reduction, including people with disabilities. Let's celebrate that we have the opportunity to do this. We have the power to implement this. We have the will to do this. So we are celebrate the outcomes. I believe that in the years to come, we are going to celebrate having a lot of local governments using this tool. And we are going to celebrate that we are going to have meaningful participation of people with disabilities ourselves into those development and outcomes. Thanks for this opportunity. And I want to say that we really need to go further into this. We really need to change reality, and we need people with disabilities being protected, but not be treated as child. We need the people or kids need us to be treated with this, how can I say, dignity of being adults working in equal terms. Thanks. Have an incredible day today, and please use all the things that this training are going to give you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Carlos. Very spot on messages from you. What I could get from here is that there are a few points that Carlos would want to highlight. The disability inclusion in its disaster risk reduction is really acknowledging the meaningful participation. He cited a few times about not think about us without us. And of course, the way to make sure that the people with disability are included in all of this planning process and implementation is to make sure that they are not invisible. They are visible, and they are part of the planning process. They are part of the implementation activities. And Carlos, if you can still turn your camera back on, I have one question that I would like to ask you from participants. We have the questions asking whether you have some examples of how person with disabilities actually have been included in the disaster risk reduction planning and implementation process. Can you give us a little bit of insight around that, please?
Yes, I will talk about one case, well, two cases in Chile. First, in Peñaflor town. Peñaflor town is this town where I live. And in 2014, we won the Risk Award as an organization, Inclusiva, as an NGO. And we implemented a group here, so a local policy with the local government. We work with the mayor of the town at this time. And we have meaningful participation of people with disabilities because we ask them, what should we do? We also have their participation. They have their own voices on this. It was very useful because you know that you cannot imagine what people have in their minds. You have to ask them, because you can have a different realities. For instance, you know that today in Peñaflor, there's a group of deaf people, and they say that they want the police, in Chile it's called Carabineros, they want to have a WhatsApp group for they to ask help, or because they cannot use a phone call. So that's why they want to implement this. It's a very good idea, probably using technology in this way, in an inclusive way, but this came not from me, it came from deaf people themselves. So they have their own voice, and that's what's important. The second example is also in Chile, in Pudahuel city. Pudahuel is a district in Santiago, the capital city of Chile. They are implementing the disability scorecard, and we have different focus groups and working groups where people with disabilities, the DPOs, the organization they have in Pudahuel. And it has been a fantastic experience because they have enlightened us with many, many practical practical ideas, and they are very supportive of the things that the local government wants to implement. So those are my two examples.
Thank you so much. So basically, if we are able to create the platforms and opportunity for persons with disability to voice out what their needs are, they can also be basically integrated into mentioning all of these needs and integrate that in the planning and implementation process. So thank you very much, Carlos, for setting the scene for us and for us to understand the big picture of all of this disability inclusion in this disaster risk reduction. Now we're going to move to the next presentation. We have heard a few times already from the beginning of this training sessions around about the disaster resilience scorecard for city, the annex for the inclusion of person with disabilities. I also have seen a few of the questions in the Q&A box asking for the links and to learn more about it. We actually have the next presentation dedicated to this. I would like to invite Mr. Sanjaya Bhatia, Head of the Global Education and Training Institute of UNDRR, to do some orientation for us on this disaster resilience scorecard for cities and next for the inclusion of person with disability. What it is, how we can use it, and how we can basically use it to help enhance the local disaster risk reduction strategic planning. So the floor is yours, Sanjaya.
Thank you, Mai. So I'm going to spend about 20 minutes to explain to you the scorecard. I think the link has been shared with you already. If not, then it will be there in the chat. You can download the scorecard addendum from there. The scorecard addendum comes from the what we call the disaster resilience scorecard for cities, which is the main scorecard which cities are using around the world. A large number of cities are using to determine their resilience gaps and where they are, where they need to be, and to help them prioritize and decide and plan for greater resilience. So that is the scorecard, and this addendum is to ensure inclusive approach to development of the assessment, which leads to the development of the plan and the future action. So I'll just share my a few slides with you, and also there will be a brief 4 questions quiz also at the end. So this is we're going to cover the scorecard annex for inclusion of persons with disabilities. We're going to look at an indicator, and we're going to look at some tips on how to use this. So this is what the scorecard looks like. There is the link you can see here, and there is the QR code. You can access the scorecard. It's in PDF, it's in Excel. You can access, you can start using it immediately. So it builds on the original disaster resilience scorecard for cities, which are available both as detailed and preliminary formats. So these were launched in 2017. Following the Sendai adoption of the Sendai framework, and they are fully aligned with the Sendai framework. And as I mentioned earlier, they help cities to understand their gaps so that they can design actions to address those gaps, and that forms a plan. So therefore, when we talk about the scorecard annex, this annex for persons with disabilities to be included, it has to be read along with at least the preliminary scorecard. Or you could also look at the detailed one, but definitely in conjunction with the preliminary. So what the scorecard does is, of course, I mean, as mentioned already, it's there to give a voice. But Also, it's there to promote the understanding that needs of persons with disabilities are differentiated. That means they have different kinds of needs, and that being inclusive requires particular attention to ensure that those differentiated needs and contributions are considered fully. So what it will do is it will help a city to be fully inclusive in their approach, and it will give them a set of indicators which they can use to understand whether they are inclusive enough or not. And if so, what are the areas which need improvement? And then this will give them also a guidance as to how they can improve. The scorecard annex has 19 questions. So each question is formulated like an indicator, and we'll see one example now. Each indicator has a score of 0 to 3, where 0 means no progress, and 3 is, of course, the maximum, the best progress. And these are designed along the outline of the 10 essentials of the Making Cities Resilient. So you may be aware of that, those who have participated in the Making Cities Resilient campaign and its successor, the Making Cities Resilient 2030, you will be aware of the 10 essentials. The 10 essentials are basically 10 key points which help to unpack the concept of resilience for a city and unpack what the Sendai framework is asking of a city. Now, this annex has been developed in line with the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and it focuses again to ensure meaningful participation and accessibility. Now, the next, I'm not going to read this out, but we have the 10 essentials for making cities resilient. As I mentioned, these are the basic principles that a city should apply, and it covers all the sectors that a city works in, all the areas of work that a city does, including the governance issues, including the use of risk assessment, including the financial capacity or the urban design, which includes land zoning and building codes. It looks at the impact on society and the capacity of society. It looks at infrastructure resilience, disaster response, and recovery and building back better. So basically, it covers the entire spectrum of what we would call a comprehensive disaster risk reduction plan. Now, what it looks at is that persons with disability should be able to be present in all the steps that are taken to develop an assessment and to develop an action plan. They should be able to be represented either in person or through organizations, such as the organizations of persons with disabilities, which can make sure that their voice is heard and that their needs are well reflected. For accessibility, what the scorecard looks at is that the barriers which persons with disabilities face must be identified, which means that at least the officials of the city, of the government, should understand what are the barriers. Also that timely access to information and to the physical places where the activities take place must be ensured, and that local governments should guarantee that the participation is safe, dignified, and promotes independence. Now, one point I'd like to mention here is that though this is the foundation is the Disaster Resilience Scorecard for Cities, but this set of indicators can also very well be used by a national government. It can be used by a provincial or state government. And of course, it can be used by a city or a municipality. So it's quite a flexible tool, and it would be useful for all levels and all dimensions of government. And so that needs to be kept in mind. We have seen experiences where another annex known as the Health Annex became very popular during the last few years, and it was used even by national governments to plan their health sector resilience. Now here we see a sample indicator. This is for Essential 1. Essential 1 is about the governance issues. So looking at coordination and participation. So what this indicator asks is there a designated focal point at the local government level with decision-making capacity and adequate resources to coordinate and address disability inclusion in the disaster risk reduction activities? So there are 4 possible scoring: 0, 1, 2, and 3. And 0 says there is no designated focal point. And with 3, of course, that would be the ideal situation. There is a designated sectoral focal point with adequate resources available. So it's a self-assessment, and to that extent, it is subjective. But when cities use these tools, or any other government uses these tools, what they do is they have a multi-sectoral group in front of them. So it is people from different departments, different sections, different ministries, if it's a national government. And then they discuss what should be the scoring, because there might be different sets of information with different groups. And that's why it's important to have this dialogue, to have this open, transparent discussion, and then come to the most relevant and most appropriate score. So it's important to have this multi-stakeholder, multi-sectoral discussion. And that is what the scorecard is all about. All the scorecards promote this dialogue and discussion between so-called silos. So the aim of this, one of the aims of the scorecard is to break the silos and ensure intersectoral coordination and participation. So even in this case, when this scorecard is to be used, it should be a multi-stakeholder group. At least the different sectors of the city should be there in the room so that they can have a very well-informed scoring. Because the scoring is very important. The scoring will tell you where there is a gap and there is an issue which needs to be addressed. So this is the formats, as I already mentioned. It's available in PDF accessible version also, and as an Excel tool. You can download from the link that has been shared, and you can start using it even right now. The scorecard has the 10 essentials, as we already discussed. It has the indicators, and in the page, it has not only the indicator, it has comments to explain better what the question is about, so that if there are any clarifications that you require, they can be provided. And also it has other spaces for helping you develop the plan of action to address the gaps that you have identified through the scorecard. Again, this is the just a picture of the accessible version. This is the Excel tool. This allows some interactive analysis also, and we'll look at some of that analysis in just a while. So now we will just look at how to use the Excel tool. And I do encourage all of you, almost I think 1,000 participants today, I would encourage all of you to download this tool. It's freely available, and to see how to use it after this session. So on the Excel tool, you have the essentials you see here in the semicircle, starting from essential 1 all the way to essential 10. You have space there to go to the information page. That means which explains how to use the tool, what is the background, who are the people or the organizations who are involved in developing it. And then there is the results page, which we will have a look at in a while. So the information page, of course, has all of this information which needs to be filled in about the city, or in case it's a national government, about the national government, or sometimes universities and research organizations and NGOs have also used these tools to help local governments do some assessments. So it might be other actors also using it. So all the information is filled in, and again here some more information is required specific to the topic. In this case, the situation of persons with disabilities in the local government. Excuse me. And then we come to the questions. So now we have already seen a sample of question essential 1. Now we'll look at essential 2. Here, the essential 2 is about understanding risk, and the question is about cascading effects of risk. And the question asked is, or the indicator is, does the local plan contain information on the population of persons with disabilities? And does it include measures to mitigate the negative impact? So again, the responses will be from 0 to 3. The comments page will explain. So in this case, the new term is cascading effect. So the comments page explains what that means. The response is 0 to 3. The means of verification is important, because suppose you score 3, which is very good, or suppose you score 1. Maybe people will look at this scoring again after 2 or 3 years. And that's what we recommended. 3 to 4 years, the scoring should be relooked at because things change. And at that time, they would like to know why you scored 3 or why you scored 1. So the means of verification will help them understand the context of why a specific score was given. This number 5 is the most important. This is identifying the potential actions. So suppose you score 2. What does that mean? You want to achieve 3. Suppose you score 1, then obviously you want to go up to 2, and then from 2 you want to move to 3. So there are certain actions that you can take, and this column is meant for writing down those actions after having a group discussion with all the members of the working group, which is doing the scorecard, to identify what are the actions, and then to identify who are the potential actors or institutions who have to help in implementing this, and also the time scale. Now, you can also, you saw that, remember there was a results at the top. So you can go to the results and you can see the score. So here, for example, the gray area is the maximum score that can be achieved. And this city has, whatever it has scored, it is in the purple area. So you can see already that essential 9, there is a lot of gap in 7, there's a gap in 6, there's a gap in 3, there's a gap. So there are gaps which need to be addressed. And this helps to prioritize what actions you can take, because you can't do everything together in one go. So you phase it out over years. And this scorecard exercise will help identify which areas should be prioritized for action, which areas have the maximum gap and need to be addressed first. The results can also be analyzed according to each indicator. They can be analyzed according to each essential. So you can see, for example, in one essential, which indicators are the weakest, or you can see out of all the 10 essentials, which essentials are the weakest. So that also helps to prioritize your actions and your timeline for the plan implementation. And then finally, it gives rise to these reports. And these are very helpful for your planning exercise, for advocacy, to reaching out to your political leaders, to the government, to the budget office, to the finance, to explain why you need to take steps to address these gaps and why you need to finance or budget an action plan. So these reports are very helpful for that. Okay, now we'll go to some 4 questions. So please go to slido.com. Just Google slido.com. And then go to hashtag UNDRR. Or you can use this QR code. So I'll give you just a few seconds to join. It doesn't take very long. You can use your mobile phone, you can use your laptop, or your computer. So now we have the questions. So question number 1 is, okay, good. So already you are, I don't have to explain. Okay. So now you see you're getting an idea of scoring, and you see that we see that 13% about are saying does not exist. So I would say that when you're doing a plan, anything below 2 or even 2 can be an area for improvement, because from 2 you need to go to 3. So these can be different criteria. You can say if it's less than 2, then I will make it as a priority, or if it's less than 1, I will make it a priority. So you can decide. Here's another essential 6, are communication materials and information on risk and resilience available in accessible and easily understandable formats to ensure the inclusion of persons with disabilities. So of course, in all, as you see, there is no right or wrong answer in this. It is simply a statement of the situation that exists in your government, be it a national government or be it a local government or provincial government. It's simply about what is the situation, what is the status. But what it does is it helps us understand that this is a gap area which needs to be addressed. So here you see at least half of the people are saying 1. So 1, definitely there's room for improvement. We can take it to 3. Now here's another one, essential 9. Does the local government conduct annual drills or simulation events that include the population of persons with disabilities and their organizations? So again, easily, I think more than almost 70% plus is in 0 and 1, which means that again, this is an area which requires improvement, which requires strengthening. So now you understand that these questions, what they do is they make us think about things which we don't normally think about. And that is what the scorecard is all about, to help us understand that. So just coming to an end, the important note is that the scorecard is not meant for comparing cities. So it means it is a private, confidential assessment, self-assessment, subjective assessment. You don't have to share it with anyone. You don't have to. It's been a really messed up week because it is subjective.
7 days of torture, 7 days of it, and my girlfriend is cheating on me. She's a California time, but it's time for me to quit her.
Do your planning. And it doesn't matter. It does not mean that there is no area for improvement, because you still have to maintain that level 3, or in the future situation might change, and then you will have to maintain your position somehow. It should be in the multi-stakeholder group, as already mentioned, there should be commitment of the political leadership, be it the mayor or the chief minister or the national government, whatever, but we need the political commitment of the government. We have to ensure participation of persons with disabilities or their representatives through organizations of persons with disabilities. Without that, again, it fails to achieve the main purpose. Ensure that all the workshop facilities are accessible. So to ensure the participation of, we have to ensure that access is available. And in many places, we have seen that the translations have been done on the scorecard, and these have mostly been done on a voluntary basis. So again, it is something that we need to we look forward to. For example, the disaster resilience scorecard is translated into, I think, something like 19 languages already. So we hope that gradually, even this very important scorecard annex will find translation in other languages. Today's training we are doing in all the key languages of the UN, and so that everyone can understand the terminologies, but also understand how to use it. So this is the a quick introduction. I think I've taken a little more time than was planned. Again, when you are doing the workshop, ensure that the venue has accessibility, so easy mobility for wheelchair, scooter, etc. And also accessible languages such as real-time captioning, sign interpretation, and so on. So all of these are very key, very important points to be followed when applying this scorecard annex and making sure that everyone is included and everyone has a voice in the planning process. We leave you with some key references. Again, you have all these links with which you can download. And with this, though we've gone a little ahead over time, but I hope you have got a good understanding of how to use the scorecard. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Sanjaya, for this comprehensive presentation. We have quite a number of questions that I would like to feed to your response now. I picked 4 key questions. First of all, there was a questions around whether this scorecard is universally applicable or whether it's targeting only the urban areas, or can it be adjusted for the rural or other subnational and smaller areas?
So I think it can be used for any governance structure where there is a, or rather, let me say it this way, it can be used for any administrative unit where there is a governance structure. So there is a decision-making body, there is somebody, there is a political or a appointed head, and there are different responsibilities across different sectors. So it could be, as I mentioned, of course, for cities and municipalities, but also for provincial governments, for states, could be used in districts. It could be used for national government. It could be even used for smaller local governments where there are these different sectors, so even if the village government has these roles, then it could be used there also.
There are also participants expressing that they really like the tools and would like to have it applied. And they're wondering whether there are key factors that can help motivate the local governments to pick up this tool to use.
I think it's you see, this challenge is there with all the scorecards. It's the political will, and that needs to be that would be the key factor. And I would say creating the awareness amongst the different stakeholders, firstly, that these tools exist, Secondly, they are simple to use, and they address critical gaps which need to be covered. So creating awareness around this in the communities, and then the communities asking their political leadership, their governance structures to make sure that these easily available, freely available tools are used. That I would say would be the key factor in making sure that these are used. So it's the public demand.
And the next question is a bit technical. There was a participant asking that with the scoring, there could be cases that people scoring differently. Some score low, some score high. What is the methodology to derive to the final score in this case?
So we've had different experiences in different places and different cities. In some places, what they have done is they brought all the different sectors together and then discussed the question and then tried to find a consensus score. Why this is important is because there are different sets of information available in different sectors. And if they all sit together, then all that information is available. And then you can come to a reasonable score, which everyone agrees to. Whereas if it's one sector working alone, they may not have all the information and they might incorrectly do the scoring. So having the multi-stakeholder group together is very helpful. And having this discussion and dialogue is very helpful. Also, another way is to do the scoring and then share it with the group. Could be done even through emails, and then have a dialogue over that, a discussion of whether the score is appropriate or needs to be changed. But there are many ways, but all underpinning factor is dialogue and discussion.
And one last question, is there any other cross-cutting scorecard, like the gender scorecard that is in the making by UNDRR?
So I would say actually that even DRR is cross-cutting. So if you look at the, as I mentioned earlier, the preliminary scorecard or the detailed scorecard, you will see that itself is cross-cutting. The concept of DRR, the concept of resilience is cross-cutting. And that's why there are the 10 essentials, which are almost like 10 sectors of a government. And the scorecard cuts through all those 10 essentials. So yes, but just for your information, the other kinds of scorecards we have already out there is a food systems resilience scorecard. There is one for public health. There is one for displacement. There is one for climate, integrating climate with DRR. There are in the pipeline is a gender scorecard, and then there is what else? Well, there are a few more coming, like on wildfires, small islands, and so on. So they are very popular, and most important point, these are all developed voluntarily by expert groups, and that is a key thing. And a lot of private sector companies contributing directly into the development of the scorecard. So that's also it's an example of the best of humanity, if I may say so.
Thank you so much. And yes, with the various scorecards, we also have series of training when we have the new scorecard coming up. So please stay tuned when there are the new ones being launched. So with that, thank you so much, Sanjaya, for giving us such a fruitful introduction to this Scorecard Annex. Now, next, we'll move to the last segment of the presentation today, including 2 case examples from the cities that actually has been applying the Scorecard Annex.
会议的最后一个环节，我们将有请2位嘉宾介绍2个城市的具体案例。
Have the Chinese interpretation fixed, please? Thank you. Yes. So just To continue, we will have two presentations, which is the case study from the cities that had already applied the Scorecard Annex. And with us first will be the case example. The case example from Baguio, from the Philippines. We have with us Ms. Antonette Anaban. She is the Director 4 of the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development of the Philippines. She has served 15 years as an economic development specialist at the National Economic and Development Authority of the Philippine government. But she later moved to be part of the city government of Baguio as assistant city planning and development officers. This is where she actually did a lot of works on disaster risk reduction and eventually become the officer in charge of the city's disaster risk reduction and management office. She has recently been promoted to be part of the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development. But despite this promotion to the national level, she still retains her voluntary commitment to work with the city government of Baguio towards making the city safer, inclusive, and resilient. And she was the one that helped lead Baguio in applying this Scorecard Annex on the person with disabilities. So we would like to welcome Antonette to share with us your experience in this Scorecard applications. And the floor is yours. And Andrea will be sharing the screen for you.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone who are attending this event. It is my pleasure to present to you the example of Baguio City in accomplishing the disability inclusion in disaster risk reduction. So Andrea will be helping me in showing my presentation. Next, please. I would like to start my presentation with a short video about the city of Baguio for you to appreciate our city. Andrea, please play.
Baguio City, located in the northern part of the Philippines, is a picturesque destination nestled atop the Grand Cordillera mountain ranges with an elevation ranging from 900 to 1,600 meters above sea level. It is a small, highly urbanized city with a land area of 57.5 square kilometers and with a population of 366,358. Popularly known as the summer capital of the Philippines, the city offers a refreshing escape from the hustle and bustle of urban life. Baguio's natural beauty coupled with its pleasant climate has made it a preferred tourist destination for both locals and international travelers. The city is surrounded by lush pine forests, rolling hills, and breathtaking views, making it a haven for nature lovers and outdoor enthusiasts. As a hub for arts and creativity, in 2017, the city was recognized as a Creative City for Crafts and Folk Arts category by UNESCO and has maintained the title up to the present. Baguio is also host to big schools and universities. This makes the city the prime education center in North Luzon, producing thousands of quality graduates every year.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so to proceed with my presentation. So while we have so many good things to describe Baguio City, we need to face some realities that need urgent actions. Like many other cities in the world, Baguio City is also facing several challenges, such as earthquakes, flooding, landslides, forest fires, urban heating, and natural formation of sinkholes. What we worry about most is the exacerbating impacts of climate change on the hazards, specifically on severity and frequency and impact on vulnerabilities. Next, please. The Baguio City government registered 2,141 persons with disabilities in the city. And by sex, there are more males than females. So there are 54% of males and 46% of females. And by age group, the majority, or 78% of the total persons with disabilities have ages ranging from 18 to 59 years old. 18% of the total number are children, and only 44% are senior citizens with ages 60 and above. By type of disability, psychosocial and physical orthopedic disabilities have the highest member with a proportion of 27.6% and 22.3% of the total registered persons with disabilities respectively. With the least proportion are those with mental and speech disabilities. Next slide, please. In July of this year, the Persons with Disabilities Office of the City Government of Baguio and the City Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office jointly accomplished the Disability Inclusion Scorecard, and we got this result. So Sanjaya has thoroughly explained earlier the disability scorecard, and as presented earlier, the gray shaded area in the web graph indicates the maximum score, the maximum possible score that we can get from each essential, while the purple areas show the actual scores. So based on our assessment, we got the highest score in essential number 1, which refers to the inclusion of persons with disabilities in disaster risk governance, followed by essential 4, which is the inclusion of persons with disabilities in building codes. So the table beside the graph actually shows more details of the web graph that is shown in the slide. It is subjective but very helpful, because the good thing about this scorecard is that we are able to look at the areas where we have a weak inclusion of disability, which are in essential 10, the inclusion in recovery or build back better, and in essential 6, which is the inclusion in institutional capacities. Next, please. From the scorecard result, key gaps were identified from each essential, which we summarize as follows. Number 1 is the limited number of information and communication materials. With that limited number of information and communication materials, we even have a limited access of PWDs to these materials. The second one is the low level of engagement of our persons with disabilities in disaster prevention and mitigation, preparedness, response, and rehab and recovery. And the third one is the low compliance of commercial buildings with the Philippine accessibility law. So most of the government buildings are compliant with the accessibility law. However, there is low compliance of commercial buildings with this accessibility law. Next, please. We also identified some areas needed to address each identified gap in each thematic area, but I tried to group related actions together and was able to come up with key actions that are shown in the screen with the responsible offices, the timeline, and under the remarks are number of essentials that a proposed action intends to address. I want to emphasize that the Office of the Persons with Disabilities cannot do it alone, but needs the support of other offices. Therefore, it needs collaboration and coordination among the offices in the local government unit. Next, please. Given the gaps, we also identified some actions needed to address each identified gap in each thematic area, but I tried also to group related actions together and was able to come up with key actions that are shown on the screen. And I want to emphasize that based on the experience that we have, I want to recommend that please don't hesitate to also try accomplishing the disability inclusion scorecard as a tool to assess your city's disability inclusion efforts that would serve as a guide for a more inclusive planning. At first, we thought that the city of Baguio has been very good in the disability inclusion in the disaster risk reduction. However, upon accomplishing this disability inclusion scorecard, we realized that there were a lot of things that we are still missing. And that guides us in the next steps or the way forward that we will be doing in disaster risk reduction and management. The next recommendation that I could give is to engage the Office of the Persons with Disabilities or representative from the persons with disabilities groups, as mentioned by Sanjaya earlier, in accomplishing the scorecard. And the third one is to communicate the results to the city staff management for their awareness and support. So it doesn't stop actually from accomplishing or from generating the result from this scorecard, but it is also very important that we communicate this to our top management, the executive and also the legislative, because there may be action areas that need some legislative support. Okay, next slide, please. So on the photo are our personnel from the Persons with Disabilities Affairs of the City Government of Baguio, led by Dr. Samuel Aquino, who is, I believe, is attending also this event. And I would like to say thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Antonette. We'll keep the questions for you after this, after we hear another case study from another city, and we'll come back to you with the question. Thank you so much, Antonette, for the time being. We have the second case examples that we would like to present to you. This is from Cali, the city of Cali in Colombia. And we have with us Mr. Johan Vasquez. He's a member of the technical team of the Emergency and Disaster Risk Management Secretariat of Santiago de Cali. He is a professional geographer and a specialist in disaster prevention, risk reduction, and response. And he has been involved in various projects related to creating risk scenarios and understanding the impact of hazards from flooding, mass movement, torrential floods in several municipalities in the area, and has been keen to learn and work on the vulnerability component. He was also one of the members of Cali, Colombia, to apply the Scorecard Annex for inclusion of persons with disabilities. So he will be sharing with us his experience. I would like to note, though, that Johan will be presenting in Spanish. So for those who would like to listen to his presentation with the English interpretation, please select the globe icon and select the English channel to hear the translation of his presentation. So with that said, I would like to pass the floor to you, Johan. The floor is yours. Welcome.
Hola, muy buenas.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon to everyone, depending on where geographic location where you are located. I've been introduced. My name is Johan Vasquez, and I represent the city of Cali in Colombia. Excuse me. Can you see the slide?
Yes, we can see
it is clear.
Yes.
Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. Santiago de Cali is a city that belongs to the country of Colombia. It's the third most important city in Colombia. It has an approximate population of 2,500,000 people. It is located on a geographic valley, and it was developed based on rivers with the Coco Rio, a very important river of the country. Also, on each side, it has mountains. Based on this, the city, we can have different risk sceneries, such as inundations, mass movements, earthquakes, forest or vegetation fires, forest fires, among other type of risk scenarios. That's why risk management is important in our area. Okay, for us, this tool was very important and advantageous because from a personal and professional point of view, we have the approximate participation of 50 individuals. There were organizations from the municipality of the Santiago de Cali mayorship and risk management. There were also individuals from the Secretariat of Social Well-being of the mayorship and a national organization, the National Unit for Disaster Risk Reduction, based on interconnection nations. We were able to generate a calling of different individuals in this capacity situation who were Cali. And we really liked this because we could have the different opinions and comments and experiences of this group of different individuals. For us, it was very advantageous. The development scorecard was very efficient and comprehensive because we could collect all of this information. Personally, we were very self-critical with ourselves. We consider that at this point we are lacking, but we don't view it as a problem, but more as an opportunity to move forward, to carry out a more comprehensive disaster risk reduction program that's more inclusive. Legislation has disaster management as something that covers all individuals, but it's necessary to precise in details the indicators, projects, and programs based on the people in discapacity situations. For us, it's very important that we can include this in the planning instruments. It's important that we can detail the actions in which the disabled can have participation, and they can participate in decision making. It's very important, and we realize that in interinstitutional articulation between the public and private institutions, among the committees and councils of discapacities of Santiago de Cali territory, to carry out an articulated work in which they likewise participate, in which the municipality and the mayorships and the decision makers take into account these experiences, to implement these in the projects and plans. As actions, recommended actions, it was very important. We reflected about 19 actions and 19 indicators, in which, for us, to characterize the populations, knowing which populations is present with discapacities and what type of discapacities are vital. Articulated working is essential with local disabilities and other local organizations from the mayorship that can provide this information. Likewise, it's very important for us to take into account that we can invite a delegate. In Santiago de Cali has a municipal council of disaster risk reduction, and we realize there is no individual that can represent the disabled individuals. For us, it was vital to initiate this action, to assign a delegate, and so they can participate in making decisions in a general manner in Santiago de Cali. Likewise, for us, it's very important that they can participate in the territorial ordering plan. Currently, in the next year, we will be updating the territorial planning plan of Santiago de Cali. And we think that it's very necessary that these individuals or representatives of them participate in the decision-making processes. Currently, we have an early alert system that is not just technological, but communicative. However, we consider that this early alert system is necessary for it to have, we can provide information, accessible information for the disabled. And we can, in 226, all of the early warning system in the urban and rural will have this inclusive early warning system. Finally, this is one of the actions that we view as very important, because in accordance with the experiences of the individuals that commented, they said that when evacuation drills were carried out in different locations at the work or in the community or at home, sometimes individuals with disabled individuals were left out, and they were told, no, you can't participate because your participation could be very slow, and then you can come back later. So this situation makes them to feel excluded. Thus, it's necessary to implement action guides based on not just for the disabled, but for the individuals who are their caregivers and their general surroundings. And these should participate because when any risks scenarios presented, inundations, mass movements, or earthquakes, these individuals will know how to act. Finally, as recommendations, we made a list, 9 recommendations in general terms. For us, it's important that risk management is inclusive because its main objective is to save lives of the territory and of the communities. So for us, it is vital that this process can be articulated. Our first recommendation has to be articulated among the central administration, the mayorships with their organizations, when the public and private sectors, and among the disabled individuals, as we can truly see how to make actions and to have actions and projects, indicators that can cover everyone. Another recommendation is we can have the general participation of committees. We can generate workshops, programs, local committees, and so individuals, disabled individuals, or their representatives are engaged in the process. This will truly help them to have a comprehensive disaster risk management program. And with this, I finalize my program. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Johan. And we would like to welcome Janet, also Antonette, back on the screen as well, as we'll enter into the Q&A session. Specifically around the context of the Philippines, whether do you have any recommendation on how you secure the buy-in of local chief executives and can be the advice for other local government units in the Philippines to follow suit?
Yeah, to encourage the buy-in of the local government executives is for the city, there should be an office that would lead in this initiative, especially in the city disaster risk reduction and management office, to play an active role also in sharing the information to the local chief executive. So it may be difficult actually to convince our local executives, our elected local executives and the lower officials on this, but we should keep communicating, or we keep updating them on this, because sometimes our local chief executives needs to be informed so that they could also be aware. Like for instance, one example is when the mayor when our mayor attended to the International Development Forum, the latest one. Actually, he admitted that he had a low awareness on resiliency. That is despite our efforts to do advocacy and promotion of these resiliency initiatives of the city. So it was only when he attended the session, that forum, that he was able to have a full understanding of the resiliency. So we should not stop. We should not stop advocating, communicating the IEC on resiliency, and most especially on the inclusion, So that could also be in partner with the local planning offices of the local government units, that they can do partnership or together with in the advocacy of this inclusivity and the initiatives on disaster risk reduction and resilience.
you. And to Johan, do you have the similar issues, and do you have any tips on convincing your local chief executive to have the interest in applying this Scorecard Annex?
It's an issue of political will, an issue of being able to tell the local governments and national government that the disaster risk reduction covers them. So in this sense, we have to engage ourselves and be aware that we have to include in our planning instruments this type of tool. It doesn't matter that these tools doesn't have a good score. It's a starting point for all of us. And this would, in one way or another, we can be more holistic and more comprehensive disaster risk management in the territory.
To try and take it as the entry point to advance further into the inclusion of persons with disabilities. Now, the second question is in connection to that. In the process that you apply the scorecard assessment, how much involvement did you have from the person with disabilities themselves? Were there only a few of them represented, or were there multiple representations of people with different type of disability engaged in the process? Let me first go to Antonette, and I'll go to Johan after this.
Yeah, what is good with the city government of Baguio is we have already established a Persons with Disabilities Affairs Office. So that office takes care of the affairs of all the persons with disabilities in the city of Baguio. That's why I saw a question there, how we were able to get the data on the persons with disabilities. It's because we established the office and we have a system of registration, and we are very much aware that the persons with disabilities have some entitlements when it comes to availing of services and the buying of goods, which in the Philippines we have the 20% discount. So in exchange to the registration, the office provide them with identification card, which they will be showing to the establishment so that they can avail of the services or the entitlements that are due to them. So what we top first are actually the focal or the head of that persons with disabilities affairs office. We top that, but when we have some questions actually, so we accomplish the scorecard with an honest to goodness mindset, because what we are more interested is to look at the gaps that we have to address in the city of Baguio. So the first thing that we engage is the head of that office. We call that the Persons with Disabilities Affairs Office. And if we have some doubts in some areas in the 10 essentials, we actually consult also some departments or concerned local departments in terms of their inclusivity or engaging the disabilities in the initiatives, the plans, the projects that they are doing.
Thank you. And to Johan, same question.
En el caso de Santiago de Cali.
In the case of Cali, we have a committee, a local committee of people with disability. So we contacted other entities or agencies of the town hall, and they have direct contact with that committee. So thanks to that direct contact that we could establish, we could have representation of people with disabilities, and a good amount of people participated. About 30 or 35 people took part, people with different types of disabilities, and that allowed us to develop a tool which was a little bit more comprehensive. We had different mindsets, we listened to people with different disabilities, different needs. So I think that communication between local communities or agencies and together directly with the people with disabilities and the local government, I think that was good for the tool, for the development.
Very important that first to identify who the person with disability are in the cities, and with both of your cares, luckily that you have already established the office or the committee on this end, so that you have better data to kickstart with and be able to invite the various representation of the groups to be part of the assessment. There are a lot of questions around asking for some examples or discovery of what you feel could be enhanced, or or maybe the example that you have been doing well in the cities around early warning system. And I also see this highlighted in some of the actions that both of you have identified in the actions, particularly for Cali. It was evacuation drills, the inclusive alert system, and also with Tonette's case, there were also the actions around creating the accessible information. So I would like to ask you to give us some examples of the practice that you have had in the cities around early warning system, which is inclusive and can address the needs of persons with disability for us. Firstly, to Tonette again, please.
Yeah, this is a work in progress for the city of Baguio, especially that we have this flood early warning system project of the Asian Development Bank that's currently being implemented in the city. And one of the strategy to make this very effective actually is and to ensure that nobody will be left behind, or the early warning will reach the last mile actually, is to have a no one size fits all strategy of early warning. So we are in the process of coming up with the channels, the possible channels of early warning, and the type of messages that are effective to them. So we had a workshop with a group of persons with disabilities, and they were able to identify what type of information can effectively reach them, what type of early warning is effective to them, because we know very well that a blind cannot read messages if we use the text blast. The deaf cannot hear siren if we do that, if we activate the siren. So that is an ongoing effort of the city government of Baguio, and we are being assisted by the consultant, which is based in Denmark actually. So we base the inclusivity there is anchored on the principle of no one size fits all, and that early warning should reach the last mile. So nobody should be left behind, even at the remotest part of the city. The early warning should reach them. So that's the ongoing initiative that we are doing in the city of Baguio. And also for the equipping of the evacuation center, we want it to be inclusive. Therefore, we integrate gender and also the disability there. Like for disability, we ensure that facilities in the evacuation center should be friendly also to the persons with disabilities. And there should be this gender sensitivity aspect when it comes to setting up an evacuation center.
Thank you, Tonette. And again, to Johan, an example from your side, please.
Well, this is a big challenge for us at this time. We have been conducting different actions, and we are engaged with these processes. I mean, this opened our eyes. And nowadays, what we are trying to do is to work on the communication systems, and we have a general communication for the whole society, speaking about what are our threats, what are our priorities. And we are trying to start implementing a communication system for people with disabilities. We are undergoing pilot tests. We are trying to see what works, what doesn't work, and what are the quantity of people that are really receiving our messages. So we are still like trying to address to understand the tools that we need, communication tools. And also what we are doing is updating a plan, a risk plan for urban cities. So we, in that sense, we are gathering different actions and tools to develop a new product so that all our actions, programs, indicators are available for people, but their participation is key. So we are in the process of creating a tool, a good design for people with disabilities, because it's them firsthand who know what would work for them.
Understand what are the needs of the different type of person with disabilities, and knowing that there is a need to understand this difference is already a very good first step to rethinking the current system that you have to be able to advance further in the future. So with this, I really thank both of you for sharing with us your direct experience in applying this tool and sharing with us some of the insights from the local government perspective. So with that, we're moving to the very last portion of the training. I just want to give you a little bit of the wrap up of the training before also some more information around the quiz itself. The key messages I want to highlight from all the speakers today basically is that when we are talking about the inclusion of persons with disability, it's really nothing without us, nothing for us without us. Just like what Carlos has been saying in the beginning. And it's very important for all of us who are practitioners, who are policymakers, to start understanding this difference, the different needs of the person with disabilities by engaging them meaningfully, expressing the needs, understanding the needs, and take that into actions. And we hope that the annex on the inclusion of person with disability will really help you to open up this entry point of understanding what you should be doing next to make sure that your local disaster risk reduction strategy is more inclusive and more enhanced. Now, all of the training materials that we have for this training, we have already uploaded on the website. We are sharing this on screen as well, and also we'll drop the link in the chat box. If you go to this training web page, on the top right-hand corner where they say attachment, you can click the drop down to download all of the training materials, the PowerPoint, and we also have additional reference materials around disability inclusion in disaster risk reduction PowerPoint as the additional material for your review before the quiz. Also, just to remind that for you to obtain a certificate of the training, then you not only attend this online training, you would have to complete the quiz. It's a 10 true and false questions. You can go directly to scan this QR code, or basically go to the link that is shown on the website, and then complete a course evaluation survey, which is both the quiz and survey can be accessed through the same link. We have the time for you to complete this until next Tuesday, 17th of October, by midnight of the Central European Summer Time. And only the successful participants who have met all of these requirements will be contacted to obtain the certificate of completion by the organizers by mid-November of 2023. We also would like to make sure that you know that when you do this quiz and the survey, please provide the name that you want to have appear on the certificate of completion. And you must use the same email address that you used to log into this Zoom sessions. Otherwise, it may be there may be the adverse implications of your certification eligibility. And we also will be sharing this link with you through the automatic email that comes out from Zoom tomorrow. And if you have not received the link, you can always contact us at UNDRR-incheon@un.org for the link. Lastly, before we leave for today, I would like to also emphasize that the quiz will be in English only. We unfortunately won't be able to provide that in all the languages, but we hope that you can use the online application like the Google Translation or other application to help you translate the questions. The question is quite straightforward, short, and the answer is only true and false to the question. So we hope that you are able to address this quiz with no issues. I also have one announcement to share that tomorrow there will be the launch of the global survey report on person with disability and disaster. This is the survey that we have conducted to understand the situation of person with disability in the case of disasters. And it's the same survey that Ms. Mizutori has mentioned at her opening speech about the finding that unfortunately over the past 10 years there has not been a lot of the progress happening around the inclusion of persons with disabilities. So it's very important for us to start acting now, and you can refer to this survey result that will be published on the DRR website, the International Day on Disaster Risk Reduction website, starting from tomorrow. So lastly, with this, I also would like to thank all of the speakers to the sessions today, all of those from the opening sessions from Carlos to Sanjaya to Antonette and Johan for being with us and sharing with us a lot of the useful information. And we hope that these are very useful to all of the participants in this training today. I also would like to extend my gratitude to all of the interpreters in all of the 6-7 languages we have. The international sign language that you are seeing also on screen, and also the English live captioners that has been duly typing all of the captions for your accessibility. Also would like to extend my thanks to all of my UNDRR Global Education and Training Institute team, particularly Charlie, Andrea and Linda for helping enormously to make this training very inclusive. And also all of the UNDRR colleagues, whether you're in Incheon and other parts of the world, who has been supporting tremendously behind the scene to make this first global inclusive training on person with disability happening. And once again, I would like to acknowledge also the gratitude, the support from the government of Finland and the government of the Republic of Korea for making this training possible. And with this, I would like to wish you also successful in the quiz, and we look forward to be connecting with you in the future. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good day, good night, wherever you are. Bye.